Now, you actually played under Mike Macdonald your first few years when he was the DC over in Baltimore. And a lot of people have already come out calling him the next Bill Belichick, the younger version of Bill, who's obviously one of the greatest to ever do it. And the proof is in the pudding for him. I mean, when you were in Baltimore under Mike Macdonald, you guys had the third ranked defense in points against, the number one ranked defense in points against. He's a mastermind, man. So having played under Mike Macdonald, what makes that guy so special? What separates him? And are you at all surprised about the success he's had in Seattle? I'm sure it was great for your development and your learning to immediately launch yourself into a program where you had one of the best young, innovative minds in football over in Baltimore.
Well, I think you said it best, man. He's a mastermind, and I think that's showing for itself. Him going over there being the head coach, but continuing to call defensive plays is not something you see often in the league. But he's just he just really understands the game. He sees it differently. He studies, and everybody studies. Every coach, studies the opposing team. Every player does too, but not everybody sees the game the same. And I think that that's evident with how the team plays for him. But another thing is how his players want to play for him. You know what I mean? And the energy they have around him, and the way they support him, knowing that they're probably going to get that same support back. That's something that we knew when we were in Baltimore. We knew that he's going to have our backs. That doesn't mean that he's not going to coach you hard. That doesn't mean he's not going to tell you when you're wrong. He's doing that out of love. He's doing that out of the fact that he expects the best out of everyone that's in the room. And we know that back then when we was in Baltimore, we knew that we were going to get the same from him. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I mean, you never know when somebody's going to turn around that quick. But at the same time, a guy like Mike, man, it's contagious. That type of attitude, that type of winning mentality, that type of work ethic is very contagious. So I'm happy for him. Very, very happy for him. Excited for him. Also, Coach Carl Scott, the defensive backs coach, he was my DB coach at the University of Alabama when I was in college. So obviously excited to see him win. Former college teammate Josh Jobe, happy to see him win. Jaylen Miro, get him a ring. It's always great to see guys that you've been around, people to see win. I always wish success on my guys. So excited for him.
Man, I love hearing that. And I think the one thing about coaching and that switch from coordinator to head coach, which I see, at least from my perspective, is sometimes guys are just suited to be coordinators. And when you move to that head coach position, at least I feel like a lot of it's about setting the culture too and understanding what your guys want, not only out of you as a play caller, as a coordinator, but as a man and as a leader. And I think that's something Mike Macdonald has definitely exemplified over a short period in Seattle. And I'm sure it was evident, like you said, over in Baltimore. Like, I'm curious too, coming out of college, Alabama, huge playing field there, all eyes on you. Was there any way that he maybe accelerated your growth, or was there a point that you came into the league and you knew like you had to adapt a little bit of your playing style, like some shit just wasn't going to cut it that you were doing maybe back in college that you had to dial in on? And that's not to say maybe you were cutting corners or anything, but just nuances of the game at the pro level that you saw and you were like, I got to change real quick, especially for this Mike Macdonald system.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, even if I wasn't speaking specifically about Mike, man, just being in the league, you don't have anything to fall back on. In college, 80 something guys on scholarship, you have a bad day or maybe you have a bad game and maybe you have a couple of them. You could lose your spot and things like that, but you're still on scholarship and, you'll still be there unless you choose to transfer, which a lot of these guys doing nowadays. That's a different topic. But in the league, you don't have anything to fall back on. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what year you're in. If you don't get with the program, you out of here. So when you get drafted somewhere like Baltimore and you're getting coached by the John Harbaughs, you're getting coached by the Mike McDonalds, you really got to get with the program right away. And even just with the players that you around, you know what I mean? That Baltimore team has some dudes on there. So you have to adapt on and off the field. You got to adapt your study habits. You got to adapt what you do in the weight room, the type of condition you're in, you know, your playing style, whatever the case may be. You got to adapt with. Maybe you got to learn more than one position. Playing under that defense, I had to learn multiple positions. Um, Luckily, I was able to attend Alabama and play for someone like Coach Saban, where I had to do that as well. I had to play outside. I had to play the slot. National championship game, I had to come in and play the dime position. Like I'm outside corner. You wouldn't think that I'm in here covering tight ends in a national championship game, but that's the way we practice. And you had to be ready for whatever when your time comes because you never know when or how it comes about. And that was the same thing when I got to Baltimore playing for McDonald. So I see those same similarities watching that Seattle team. You see a lot of guys on that defense that's playing inside, outside, not just because of an injury. It may just be because of that play call. It may be just that package or anything like that. But you got to be able to adapt and you know keep this thing going without anything stopping because this person is in a different spot. But that's up to the player to be able to do that. And Mike is going to put the right guys where they need to be, obviously, and they have that type of success.
Well, just watching his defensive performance, I mean, some of the nickel blitzes that he was dialing up with Witherspoon and the way he
Filthy.
used Nicky Manwuri this year, I mean, just crazy stuff. And, you talk about like squeezing the juice out of every single athlete you got. And that's something that I really keyed in on with Mike Macdonald this year. And I'm happy that you had that opportunity, obviously, to work with him as well. And I was talking to some of my buddies as well, asking me, like, what true position does Jaylen play? I'm like, I don't even know, man. I've watched a lot of the film, and obviously he's true outside, but I've seen him play and make plays pretty much everywhere on the field, and I appreciate that. That's something you've realized also coming into the league about that adaptability and the ability to just move around and make plays